Sledgehammer sound. Anyway, welcome to the Discomfort Zone. This is the podcast put on by us, the Casual Fanatics. It's the podcast where we get out of our comfort zone to do stuff we wouldn't normally do because we know my air conditioner is going off. Starting that over. There's a good chance I'm going to forget this happened, and I'm going to be starting this episode at the previous introduction, and we'll have all of this in the episode.
I hope so.
Welcome to the Discomfort Zone. This is the podcast put on by us, the Casual Fanatics, where we force ourselves to get out of our comfort zone because sometimes there's a great piece of media out there that you just never got around to. Because
sometimes there's not.
Well, sometimes it's... Here's the thing. Sometimes we find out in the Discomfort Zone that the thing that was lauded so much in popular culture or by somebody who recommended it to us is actually terrible. And it happens. But we try to figure out why these things are liked by other people. And we have to experience them ourselves, and we go through it, and we do it, and we try to figure it out. And that's what we do here. We talk about that experience. I am Paul Stadden, that is Jeremy Bazell, and that is Sydnee Johnson. And we had some interesting challenges this week because part of the Discomfort Zone is not just trying to torture each other, although that is sometimes the fun part, but it's also genuinely trying to get each other to experience something we think is great, or maybe that we're just not familiar with, something we just missed, and we actually would love if we just push ourselves a little bit and get into loving it. So this week, in honor of my challenge, I'm wearing the PlayStation shirt. I played Final Fantasy VII. Now, when I say I played Final Fantasy VII, I don't mean I finished Final Fantasy VII, because that's not freaking possible. Not in the amount of time I had, just at all. So, you know, when you have a spouse and child and various creatures in the house.
I'll forgive you because you have a really hilarious 18.
Oh, I love her so much. I mean, I should, but also just because, yes, she is hilarious. But so I played a little bit of it, and I also watched some playthrough video as well to kind of, you know, get me where I would never be able to get to because it's like a 900-hour game.
It really actually isn't it? It's not that long.
Well, it's long to me.
Not that long.
Okay. I'm not going to argue the length of semantics of Final Fantasy VII. It's a 3-disc game, so that should tell you what you need to know.
Skyrim. No, I'm kidding. I just
let him go. Let him go, Jeremy.
So this is the Discomfort Zone after all. This is pushing me into something that I'm not comfortable with. So, you know, the thing about Final Fantasy VII is here's the thing I don't like people do. And I just saw this comic on Reddit yesterday. Some kid pulls a PlayStation out of the attic and says, "Oh man, I used to play Final Fantasy all the time. I love that game." And he puts it on and they show Cloud and he's like, "Ugh." I'm like, okay, enough of this garbage. This whole argument of something looked good for the time drives me insane. Is the game good? Because here's the thing, because is the game good? Is it fun? Is it compelling? Is the story there? That's what matters.
And I had an argument regarding a similar topic, actually about Stardew Valley the other day with a friend who I was like, oh, you should play Stardew Valley because everyone's peer pressuring me to play Animal Crossing. And I don't feel like spending $60 for Animal Crossing, okay? I played 3 incarnations of it. I get, no offense to Animal Crossing lovers, I get bored real quick. Whereas Stardew Valley's little reward system keeps my brain engaged. And they were like, they looked at it and they were like, I don't want to play it. I don't need to go back to Game Boy graphics. I'm like, okay.
First off, Game Boy graphics. You didn't even have color.
No.
Hey, I had the Game Boy Color, but I see your point.
This would have been, Stardew Valley would have been mind-blowing on the Game Boy Color.
On the Game Boy, right?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? If it looked like that, holy crap. But yeah, no, you're right.
Mobile games can look like
But it's the perfect amount of graphics to get the the amount of information that they want to convey to you.
It's amazing how much we have embraced in 2020, like a lot of minimalist art and minimalist graphic style. We don't like the ornate anymore. We like, the fewer color the smaller color palette, very sharp angular design. And that's really in right now. And like, that's Final Fantasy VII. Like, that's what that is. It gives you the amount of visual information you need to
That
get
you
the
need.
point across. And this is the thing I've always hated this. I remember in high school, we were going to watch, I think it was Lawrence of Arabia, which came out in, I want to say 63 or 64. And somebody said, wow, that movie's really old. And I turned to him and I said, yeah, I guess it couldn't possibly be any good. Like, it's just old. It's not bad. Like, what's your problem? Yeah. And that has always driven me nuts. This argument from a date. Like, I don't understand why people feel that way. I genuinely do not. This idea of something being dated, this idea of something being, if something's not good, then fine. It's not good. Okay, yeah, if something sucks, if the graphics are bad because you can't tell what's going on, if things are proportioned weirdly, or it's just jarring or unpleasant, fine. But Street Fighter 2 looks gorgeous.
Also, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I'm assuming you played either the Steam version or the PlayStation 4 version.
No, Steam version.
So I'm going to assume that Steam did the same thing PlayStation 4 did and has upgraded the graphics a little bit.
Not a lot. I mean, from my recollections of playing,
but the actual character models are a little smoother and things like that. Because I
pixelated
from my PlayStation 2 disc to like the PS4 download, and actually like the little bit of upgrade they made does like make it look quite a bit better. It still is what it is. It's
yeah.
What is it?
32-bit era. It's 32
bit on a painted background, but it smoothed it out just enough to like get rid of some of the pixelatedness.
Yeah.
And that's why when I saw it on the Switch, I was like thrilled. I'm like, yay, now I can take it with me. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Really dumb.
All three of those versions are pretty much the same version. It's all based off of the Steam.
I think
PC
so.
version. Yeah.
Well, the game is it is an epic journey. The problem is it's the exact kind of game that's not my kind of game, because I've said this before. I mean, maybe not to you guys, and definitely not on this podcast. Is I have a problem with a lot of story-driven games because I want to be in the story and compelled by the story and going. And if I get to a point where I can't figure something out, it completely pulls me out of the world. I'm out of the story. It would be like if I was watching The Godfather and they said, all right, we have to go and kill this mobster. We got to find a key to this door, though, to get out of it. And then the next 2 hours is them trying to find a key to the door. Like, I'm out of the story. I'm out of it. I want this continual, like, natural progression, natural flow, what's happening with plot and the movement. And with a game like Final Fantasy VII, there are moments where I'm like, I am just traversing this landscape forever. And it's like, okay, I'm just trying to get to the other side of this map. And there's another fight. Oh, no.
Random battles.
Debate every RPGer in their teens. Another random battle.
Please let it be one enemy in this. Three enemies. How many hit points?
About it, you are not using your materia system correctly. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, and that's another reason why I'm not crazy about RPGs, is because it's not about like reaction time or quick thinking on your feet about like, whip, like in Doom or something, where you're like, you have to have the right gun for the right situation, but like you run in and you have to switch from the double barrel shotgun over to the BFG or something like that, so you can clear out the room of imps, and then you go to the next room where you pull out your chain gun. This is like, okay, how do all these things interact with each other? What are the special powers of my various characters again? What's the button that makes this happen? And I'm like, okay, God. I can't do this.
It's a menu. It is not even that difficult.
That's the problem. It's a menu. And then I'm further pulled out of it because I'm like, okay, so what? Is the guy standing across from me just waiting for me to, where I'm just like, okay, give me a minute.
Limitations of the time, Paul.
Give me a second. I'm going to, and here's the thing. Again, this is a criticism of like, this is just not a way I enjoy games. It's not a criticism of like the engine or something like that, or even necessarily a limitation. That's just a style of play.
Now.
And now it's not something that we really turn-based RPGs aren't really huge anymore like they were in the 1990s. And I don't. Yeah. Again, I think that the idea that the game looks blocky or old, like, it doesn't matter. That's not a thing that would keep me from playing the game or make me not enjoy the game, because I still play games from that era. If I turn the camera around, you'd see my Sega Saturn sitting here. Like that's my era of game anyway. It's a fascinating throwback graphically into what it looked like when I was a kid, but it's just I can't do that kind of slog. It's not my thing for a game. My attention span and the amount of time I have to consume media is so narrow now. I don't have time to do that kind of stuff. I just don't. I have like a few hours on a weekend, maybe, to be able to consume media. So it has to be something where it's quick, easy, digestible. It's Sonic Mania, it's Doom. It's something like that where it's a quick, run through.
You're just
and
looking
it
for that
keeps
What's
joke.
interesting? What's
Yeah, maybe.
interesting? Like you're starting to see these longer games try to figure out ways that they're more digestible in short spurts. Like a great
Right.
example of that would be Breath of the Wild. Like instead of having huge sprawling dungeons, you have small shrines which encapsulate what a dungeon was, but you can,
Right.
rather than taking 5 hours to complete it, some you can complete in 5 minutes. So
Right.
So you can complete something in a short amount of time and feel like you made progress, even though you just picked up the game for 10 minutes and put it down.
Right. Well, I think this is something that I don't want to say it was like pioneered by, but where I first noticed it was in Grand Theft Auto 3 in 2001. Because in that game, it's all about individual small objectives. You have to go do this job. You have to go do this errand. And the whole game is like that. It's not a linear storyline. Well, I mean, there's a little bit of it in there. You're a criminal in Liberty
Well,
City.
and I think part of this is a function of, like, because I've definitely run into this, like, in gaming as an adult, it is harder to find the time to, like, take with that epic game that you do have to
Right.
spend some time with. Where if you're stopping because you're only playing 2 hours a week, you're like, wait, was I? And like that
Yes.
happens to me a lot. Like I'll go back to a game and be like, I have no idea.
Oh,
what
I'd lose the control scheme. I'd be like, oh,
I
crap,
do.
what button does this do? That's why I do PCs, because I'm like, I need the keyboard, because that's just QWERTY. I mean, or WASD in the case of a first-person shooter, And the thing is that Final Fantasy VII, it's tough for me because it's something I do want to absorb from a cultural standpoint. I did play through a lot more of it back when I owned it on the PlayStation 2, and I had more time in which to play games.
Mhm.
And I got what I consider far, what the gatekeepers among would not necessarily consider far, but I would. And it's something that, as much as I want the reward of understanding it, part of the problem is also with playing a game from 1997 is that so much of it has permeated the culture that
You know.
there's no shock or surprise anymore.
Mhm.
And things don't change.
Mhm.
It's not like you have multiple endings that you can go through or you get surprised by something. You know what's going to happen. And it also has the biggest spoiler of all time in video games, which is the death of Aerith, or Aerith, whichever, however you want to pronounce it. Um, and oh yeah, sorry. Did you do not know that one? So it's tough to go back and get into it. It's like wanting to go back and watch The Sixth Sense 22 years after it came out, or 24 years after it came out in 1996, knowing the plot twist. It's like, okay, well, do I really want to sit through knowing that he's dead the whole time? Want to
Yes.
gasp again,
I
Jeremy?
mean, I rewatched The Sixth Sense, but okay.
That's
I
a tough
love
one.
The Sixth Sense.
I do.
I've watched it like 20 times.
There are other things to see there. Like,
Okay, but if you go in knowing, it does ruin that first experience. I think that when you go in knowing, and I've really tried in my life with things I really care about to avoid knowing anything, not just spoilers, but anything. When I first saw The Matrix, went in knowing nothing. All I heard was, is this title, and people said, oh, it's a cool movie. And I said, that's all I need to know. I'm going to go see The Matrix. And it blew me away because I went in knowing zilch about it. The problem with going
I
into
mean,
Final Fantasy
I
VII is
go
just I know
into
everything.
I go into a lot of things that way, but sometimes it's just not possible. I mean, I will say this as someone and I've gone on record, I think I've said this before on the podcast, like as someone who's played through the game, like I think a grand total of like 6 or 7 times in my life,
Right.
like beginning to end at different parts of my life. And then that tragic remake situation.
Yes. The thing of which we will not speak.
It's literally the thing that shall not be discussed around me. But the like, even in going in and playing it again after like the tragic remake situation, I was shocked to find like the little nuggets of story and how it leads you and how it's literally built into every part of that game. And it leads you without you making you feel led. And that's really the way in which I wanted you to approach it, is like, because even as someone who knows the story, I was able to go at it as like, okay, let's pretend I don't know where we're going and see what happens. And you discover all these delightful little moments that you kind of forgot about or you don't have to experience.
Well, I think that's my favorite part, actually, of a Final Fantasy experience, is that you can, in a very organic way, go and talk with villagers. Like, this is one point where you go in and you can take the money out of this kid's bedside dresser. Did you do it, by the way? Because I totally did.
You took his money?
Of course. The game let me do it. I'm going to do it.
So like the cute thing about this particular little moment, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You steal like $5 from this kid's dresser,
right?
And he's hidden away.
So
if you steal it, you get the $5, and the kid lives in a slum. Like,
right.
So keep in mind, like the child that you stole from.
Oh, I know, and a lot of this is in retrospect, because when I was playing it and I did that, there was part of it. It was like, Did I just do what I think I did? Because
if you steal it, he's a week later, and he'll mention that his money's gone missing.
Oh yes,
because he's talking about it in his sleep. So if you don't steal it later, this is what you get. I screenshotted it because it was so hilarious. I sent it to a friend. I'd forgotten about this, so I left it my last playthrough. I like always roll a dice to figure out what I'm going to do with this kid's money.
That's awesome.
But like, if you don't steal it, here's what happens. He gives you like a turbo ether, which is the only way you can get one that early in the game, because that's an item that you don't even have access to yet. But his commentary is like, when I grow up, I want to be a big time dealer on Wall Market.
Nice.
Oh,
that type of
terrible
commentary made me so happy.
That type of moment just reminds me of a moment like in Mass Effect 3 where I'm getting interviewed by this reporter, and like sometimes I just react to things when it pops up on screen, and it gave me a prompt, and I got the choice to press that prompt or not, and I decided. Well, I didn't even decide. I just reacted and hit it, and then all of a sudden I decked the reporter in the face. I was like, that's not what I wanted to do. And it saved. The game saved after that.
Yeah,
so I couldn't reverse my choice.
This is the game, because the game knows it's pulling you along in a certain path. But this is the great. But that's actually one of the.
Just to iron this out, like, so by not stealing this kid's money, you get a better item and also encourage his dreams of apparently becoming a drug dealer.
Apparently. So is it good that you took his money then? Because it stops him from being the drug dealer? Like, I'm not sure what the lesson is here.
On this topic, real quick, I do want to throw this out here. And we can spend a little bit of time with FF7 because I don't have a ton to say on mine, but so you will take some of my time.
I have a lot to say on yours.
I'm sure you do. I will say this, like, that comment got me like in the gut, and I laughed about it with a friend of mine for like hours, because in the remake they made Wall Market so much of like an entertainment district, but so much of like a place you would just take your family, and Wall Market was seedy in the original.
So it's like Las Vegas 1997
like
versus Las Vegas 2020.
Right.
Where it's become the family tourist attraction, where in 97 you didn't take your family.
In the remake, where like the Honeybee Inn, which is obviously like a brothel and real shady, like,
yes,
becomes a nightclub, and you just it looks like Vegas.
But yeah,
yeah. like, I just want to point out that, like, this is a kid in the original game, like, being like, yeah, I want to be a big-time dealer in Wall Market because that's his goal in life.
That's what he's got. But that's part of that is the depression of the story and where people can go.
And that,
like, this is my way
so
out of the slum.
It
Right.
is.
Right.
And it makes me so happy that it's so organically built into that game.
Well, that's the thing about Final Fantasy VII and getting games like that is that it would show you the repercussions of your actions, because the whole thing was about that things were permanent, that things you did mattered in this world. The death of Eris being the most obvious example of that. But the repercussions of small things like that would permeate throughout the entire story. From Cloud and Zack being possibly clones also of Genova, along with Sephiroth, or failed clones or something like that. And then something like this with the kid, where you see the repercussions of your actions later on. That is why, as much as I am not someone who really necessarily wants to spend a lot of time in that world, I appreciate Final Fantasy VII so much for what it is, because it's an incredible example of that. Beyond what they had done with the Legend of Zelda series up to that point, beyond anything with the previous Final Fantasies up to that point, it was such a world you could explore. And when you actually look at how much real estate you can actually walk through in the game, it's not that much.
It's not.
You're very guided, but you don't feel like it's a small area. You feel like it's a massive, huge place. And that's the magic of of working with limitations. Because what we do now is we just make the whole place, make it all accessible, but we do really dumb ways of guiding you through things and really obvious ways of guiding you, even up to and including what they did in Perfect Dark Zero with actual arrows on the ground saying, go this way.
With the gold light in Fable 3.
Yeah. Things, and then you have,
You see we're getting a new Fable?
Oh, that's right.
Did.
Yes.
I'm excited about who's developing it.
So, what lies will Peter Molyneux tell this time?
Thankfully, he's not.
Will the tree
no
finally
longer...
grow? Will the acorn finally plant, and will we finally get a growing tree? Is that going to happen this time, Peter?
Now I'm just mad because I have to buy an Xbox. Okay.
Yeah.
Peter's no longer with Microsoft.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Lion's Head or whatever is not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's being developed by Playground Games, who did the Forza Horizon games before that. And if you don't know, they do phenomenal work. So I'm very excited for it.
I hope so. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm never holding my breath for a game again. But anyway, back to FF7.
So yeah, it's, as a person who's not an RPG fan, it's something where, and this is the larger discussion, is the gulf between stuff you like and stuff you appreciate. And Final Fantasy VII is definitely in the stuff I appreciate. Like, this is great. Like, I recognize the greatness inherent in this, but it's also, it's like eating something. It's like, Paul, this is the tastiest tomato that you'll ever have. Like, cool, I hate tomatoes. Well, no, but you understand. This is like this is like organic and all natural, and we grew this with ancient seeds that were perfectly hard. Cool. I still hate tomatoes. I appreciate what went into making that tomato. I'm thrilled for you. I know it's chock full of vitamins and nutrients, and I know it's rich and juicy and flavorful. I still hate it. I'm happy for you. And the thing is that Final Fantasy VII is one of those things where I will probably revisit throughout the years and go back and say, you know what? I want to see the greatness again. Because it's very obvious the moment you start playing it that this is an incredible world. And this is a detailed world and a rich world and one that has a lot to offer you. But it's just not one that it's like, that's not my thing to explore. But that's the thing about the Discomfort Zone. We push ourselves into things to recognize greatness in things, and sometimes into liking a new thing. But with me, with Final Fantasy VII, it's a recognizing of greatness and an occasional revisiting. And I'm happy with that. That's where I'm comfortable where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Don't shake your head. This is all I said is accurate and correct about myself.
You don't know you.
You don't know
You're
me.
unknowable.
You're allowed to be wrong. I mean, like,
Yeah, I am allowed to be wrong. That's the great thing about being 37. I have realized in life I have the right to be wrong about things, and it's fine. Yeah, and the thing is, look, you like Final Fantasy VII a lot in the primary sense of you like spending time in the world. Congratulations. Happy for you. Thrilled. Play it all you want. I'll play it occasionally. It's just not my thing. And that's okay. People can like different things.
No, I know. I just like, how far did you actually get?
I don't know. Couple hours?
Where were 3
Jeremy,
days.
help me. Grill him.
Paul, you got one bite into that tomato. Why didn't you keep eating the tomato? Because I didn't like the tomato.
Look, I watched my entire movie, and I will not get that hour and 40 minutes back.
That's an hour and 40 minutes. How long is Final Fantasy VII?
It was actually only like 45 hours. Not that long.
So just a week and some overtime of work. Cool. Compared to an hour 40.
Yeah, but that was a really boring hour and 40.
Oh, do you want to do yours next? Do we want to talk about your thing?
We may as well. Do you have anything else to say? Because it doesn't sound like you do.
I'll say this. Because also taking into account your points about the remake of Final Fantasy VII, which I do believe so fundamentally changes what the game is that it is actually breaking of the game. Final Fantasy VII is worth playing. It's worth playing in the same sense to me that it's worth watching Citizen Kane. You may find out that you love it, but even if you don't, you still need to see what the big deal is. And it is a big deal. It's a worthwhile big deal. It's something worth knowing. Even if it's not your primary love and joy and you go back and revisit it a lot, or if it's something that you play once and you put up on the shelf and just appreciate, it's a work of art and you need to at least try it. So I'll leave it there with Final Fantasy VII.
All right. So Sydnee,
what was your thing?
So I was challenged by Paul to the artist because apparently he hates me.
We're not talking about Prince and the artist formerly known as Prince era. We're talking about the movie The Artist.
The black and white, almost silent movie The Artist. What year was it made,
2012,
Paul?
I want to say. 2012.
Not that long ago.
It was 2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
Dang.
You know what? Because I
feels like
it
came like a couple years ago.
I know.
It feels like it, but I don't know what year we're in, so.
Yeah, it's 2020. It was 2011. I was right.
2011.
So.
And didn't it win the Oscar that year?
It did. One Best Picture.
Best Picture. That's what I thought. Okay, so this hour and 40 minutes of my life that I won't get back. So I'm going to start, unfortunately, in the same way Paul did, because I really disagree with how you went about that conversation.
What do you want from me? You want me to lie?
I want more from you than that.
Me to lie? I finished the game. Yeah, played it all the way through.
I want more thought-provoked than that. But anyway.
Okay. I don't know what more you...
We'll get there. Well, maybe one day in the future.
Oh my God. It's been a week. Oh my God. Anyway, so I sat down and watched The Artist Thursday afternoon while it was raining. And going on record, like I said, I'll start the same way Paul did. I'm not a fan in general of black and white films. This does not mean I abhorrently hate black and white films. I think they should exist. I understand that 3-color was a thing. Just generally, they don't catch my visual attention receptors enough to keep me. I have to work real hard to stay interested.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a big fan of silent movies, which mainly comes down to me not watching TV sitting down. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why everyone hates me for that. But,
watch TV how you want. I don't care.
But I watch TV doing dishes in the other room and occasionally sticking my head out when I hear something interesting happen. I don't watch TV shows, I listen to them.
Right.
There's a reason why the primary TV shows I watch are like Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons, stuff like that, because I could just have it on the background and do the same. That's how I consume my television shows too.
And I have a bad habit for doing things like reading when I'm watching TV. I will literally sit there with a book and something I've never seen on the television. I have some bad habits like that. The big exception being foreign films. This is why usually like people think I'm psychotic, I guess, because like I'll watch a show like 4 times in a row. It's because I get to see different scenes every time.
Ah, well, fair enough.
Great. I don't even like, I'm like, I don't remember this part. So silent films are hard for me because like in addition to like not having any sound, and this also happened to be in black and white, so there's not that much visually interesting to look at. And look, I get where it was going. I really do. It's a very simplistic story. I get that the idea was like, let's make a silent movie that is a commentary on the death of silent film. And great, I guess, like that's a really interesting idea. Matter of fact, like I will say, like one of my favorite parts is when he starts to like move things around his dressing table, and he realizes that he can hear it.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a really weird breaking of the fourth wall, but okay. And like I get it. And on top of that, it's like layered into this cute little romance, I guess. Like I guess it's cute. He leaves his wife.
Well, his wife kind of leaves him.
Doesn't really seem that happy in the relationship, to be real. Like she is not happy at the beginning of the movie. I don't even know what they were doing together.
Yeah. She was not, she left him hard.
Apparently they were happy at one point.
Yeah, but you don't see that point. You see
you
her
don't.
like unhappy from the beginning of the movie. So it's really not a surprise when she leaves him. And so it's layered into this cute little romance of like this rising little starlet in, movies with sound, which is the thing, talkies. Because now we have audio recording equipment, apparently. So it's all enmeshed in the two of them meeting, and then her getting into film and her becoming an actress, and he kind of becomes the washed up old actor. And it's I guess cute and heartwarming at the end. Like she brings him back into the film industry, and he admits that he was wrong about the lack of sound in movies.
So it's essentially like A Star is Born.
Yeah.
Yeah. But much more simplistic. It's like they, of course, by nature of silent films, like it's told in a very simplistic way.
Well, I mean, silent film is all about pantomime, and it's all about raw emotion. What you're seeing on the actor's faces is not about the words they're saying. You know, the interesting thing about the artist, and you talk about him getting convinced to do sound film, is, and for those who haven't seen it, sorry, spoilers herein. But at the end, you realize the reason that he didn't want to do sound films is he has this thick French accent.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first saw that, I was watching it with my family. We were all like, that would be such a selling point now. Like he has this cool, exotic sound.
Interesting voice.
But I can see that would have been a huge problem if you're billing yourself as one thing. Like if you're just supposed to be this swashbuckling American kind of guy, if you're supposed to be an Errol Flynn kind of person, then just suddenly you're on screen and you're talking like this all the time. Then that's the problem, So it's kind of interesting commentary on expectations as well. What we all are looking for out of the people in our lives. So the reason that I loved The Artist, not only because I actually do love silent film and have ever since my family first showed me Charlie Chaplin, is because I do kind of lament the death of silent film. As there are people talking in the 1920s about being able to coexist with sound film because it was such a different medium, and actors like Lon Chaney talking about his deaf parents having something to go see because they didn't have to be able to hear what was going on to be able to understand it all. And even people like Charlie Chaplin trying to keep the medium going with like City Lights in 1931 and Modern Times in 1936, well after the sound era had started.
Yeah.
It's still, people realize that, no, we're good. We want sound now. It's fine. We can just have the actors say what they feel, and it's fine. It's good.
And you can definitely see the influence of people like Charlie Chaplin in this film. You can see the influence of that whole idea of him trying to keep silent films going, mostly so that he would have a career. Like, but because he really is destitute after that. Like, I'm like, did the guy make no financial plans? But
nope.
No. But like he really is. It changes his whole life, and you see it, like, look, I can appreciate, you see it as a resistance to the change. because that change destroys his world.
Right.
It's an interesting commentary. It's a cute little idea. I'm actually not so thrilled about the little sub romantic plot that it's meshed into. Like, to me, for me personally, I understand why they did it. You have to have a theme to pull you through this film. But like, to me, it's a little too feel good for my tastes. Personally, it's not something that I'm, interested in watching. As an interesting commentary experiment, I got a brilliant idea. Like, let's make a silent movie about the death of silent movies. It feels like an art film. To me, it feels like an art experiment. It doesn't feel like a movie to me. And like, and I know it sounds bizarre to say, but that's how it feels. It feels like an artsy experiment to me. It does not feel like a popcorn crunchy movie. Like, I'm not gonna sit down. I will never watch it again. Probably. It was an interesting experience.
Right.
But it's once again, it goes back to our argument about we need to do our own rundown of film awards one day.
Yeah.
It goes back to our rundown of like, it won Best Picture, and I knew it had won Best Picture. So I'm like, but it's a Citizen Kane. You're not gonna pull it off your shelf and watch it on a Sunday.
If you're not a silent film fan, it's definitely it's something where you say, "Wow, what a work of art." I'm gonna not ever touch you ever again.
Not gonna buy that. Like,
but if you're, for me, like, I've seen it a couple of times, and part of it is that it's also not only trying to be a commentary on silent film, it's also trying to be very evocative of the types of stories that silent film would tell. It is more melodramatic. It is more of a straightforward will they, won't they. It's not supposed to be an overly complicated, Mission Impossible style plot.
And I will say, for my part, as a fan of opera, I am totally down for that. Like, I am totally down for a simple little jaunt through a simple little story. Sometimes that's all you need, and that was all this movie needed. Like, it really, you don't want to get any more depth than that. Honestly, I'm a little surprised at the amount of depth they were able to go into. To me, the most interesting thing was more of the look into his resistance to change.
Right.
And just how devastating that was to him because I think even certainly in my industry, but in a lot of industries, we're seeing that now. Right. And we're seeing, the old guard, for instance, in a lot of industries, oh no, you just keep doing it this way, while that way is dying.
Yeah.
And that's a really tough thing for people in not being ready to jump up and evolve.
It's like when cars started becoming a thing and the horse and buggy industry freaked out. And then you had, I forgot their original name, but they became General Motors because they switched from making buggies to making cars. And guess what? They're still around today. But the buggy industry that didn't switch, they're gone. That's an
exception. That's not the rule. Most people, and really, when you think about it as humans, we're not meant to handle evolution that fast. The biggest change the last generation saw was the jump from the jump from post to the telephone. Look what our generation has been through.
Oh gosh,
here for us.
Imagine being like a 6-year-old at Kitty Hawk, seeing the Wright brothers fly for the first time, and then being a 70-some-odd-year-old man watching TV and seeing people walk on the moon. Like, what the last century saw change is unprecedented.
Compared to what the century before us was minuscule compared to what this century has been through.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it really does, it's timely in the way that it does bring light to that idea. But I think it brings light to that idea in a way that, honestly, because of the story it's wrapped in, and the medium that it's told in, is not I don't know that everybody would jump on that point out of it. How far it would get out of that story. Well, because to me, that was the most interesting thing about it.
Right. Well, and it is supposed to be more of an art house film. It's not supposed to be a general public popcorn cruncher. That would be a pretty heady kind of subterranean, under the surface kind of motivating force for the story than you see in most popcorn munching blockbusters. But it
I was
is,
impressed at the level of depth that they were able to tell
yeah.
in what on the surface is a very simple little story.
And there's a lot of little visual cues they do in showing, the change that's happening. Like there's a point where the male lead and the female lead are having a conversation on a staircase, and he's going down and she's going up. Funny thing, that staircase was also in Blade Runner, by the way. But but you can see that in that shot the trajectory of what's happening to their respective worlds, and there's a lot of that happens throughout the movie. And I love and that's for me why I like, that's a second viewing for me. It's an easy, digestible, go back and watch it and like, oh yeah, there's a detailed mess, like The Sixth Sense, like, oh yeah, that does indicate that he would have been dead the whole time. How about that? So you're able to go back, and if it's a kind of, the artist is telling its story to the kind of people who like that kind of thing, and from a perspective of somebody who does lament the death of a whole medium of storytelling that just went away all of a sudden. To me, that was like when the harpsichord went away in favor of the piano. Like, well, the harpsichord does some things better than the piano.
Some things a lot better than piano.
But everybody was like, no, it doesn't play so loud and soft, so it's gone. Like, well, what about accompanying an orchestra that mixes in better with the strings? Sorry, it's gone. We're just using the piano from now on. Can't hear you. Can't hear you over the piano that's so loud because I can play loud now. Just how it works.
Well, harpsichord was only loud.
Yeah, it was one volume. But it was a much better a whole other argument, a music's history argument that we can make here for the rest of the
Hannibal today, so I'm actually loving this argument right now.
Oh, fair. Okay, yeah. So that was your
like, maybe I'll buy a theremin. Like,
they're cool.
They are cool.
They're awesome. Gosh, the instrument that you don't touch, but
I love it.
That's what the theremin sounds like.
Sound effects.
I don't know why I felt compelled to do the theremin sound there.
That just made me think, because I was listening to some news a couple of days ago, and for the first time I realized, like, they're using theremin in this song. The theremin is playing the main melody of this song right now.
That's actually impressive.
Uprising.
That's actually impressive.
Yeah, uprising. I'm pretty sure he's using it there. He might be using the chaos pad on the guitar, but okay. So the artist, that was your experience having to watch the thing that was not your comfort zone this week, and we're on a theme of I appreciate that. Not gonna necessarily revisit it, but I appreciate it. Let's see if the same thing happens with Jeremy. Unless you had anything more to say on the artist, I don't want to stop anybody on saying more things.
No, not really. Yeah, I'm good to digest, but I would not have done it had I not been pushed into it.
Right. I understand the feeling. So,
all
Jeremy,
right. What did I have to do this week? I got challenged to this show that you told me about. It's called B&A. It is a Netflix original anime.
Don't let that phrase scare you, by the way. It's actually good.
And so, like, I don't watch a ton of anime, but, I'm up for it. Then it's like, oh, this is like,
you're up for it.
We have this whole...
Or I don't know where you are in relation to me on your screen.
I'm going to make him just rotate. Don't worry about it.
Rotate. All right.
And look, I don't watch a lot of anime either. Like, that's not really my thing.
Jeremy watches far more anime than you.
Much more anime than I do.
Do I?
Yes.
Oh, yes. This is coming from somebody who knows me quite well over the years of how much anime I actually take in.
Yeah. It's B&A was something that I was not interested at all.
I'm not.
Then, like, the only reason I watch anime typically is somebody's there having me watch it. It's essentially how I intake anime, and
okay.
In this case, no one was there to have me watch it, so I first start watching it, and I fall asleep.
This is a ringing endorsement so far.
So I fall asleep.
What's making you happy, Sydney? Why does that make you
all
this suffering?
And I wake up, and everything at this point is in Japanese. I wake up and like, I have no idea what the heck is going on. So
just in general in life.
So sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna tell a story here. I have insomnia really badly. And so sometimes at night I'll take a melatonin and I'll put something on Netflix and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and it'll still be running and I have no idea what I'm watching.
Because they don't have that "are you still watching" thing anymore where it just stops the show.
They do. After 3, it stops.
I thought it's kept. This shows you how little Netflix I've taken in.
Yeah, it's
I wake up a lot.
So the beginning of my relationship with this show was this is the weirdest thing I have ever seen in my life, and I have no idea what's going on. So that was the beginning. So after some time, the next day or a couple of days, I don't know exactly the time frame, I'm still like, okay, I'm just gonna have to start over because everything that I took in was Japanese, and I don't speak Japanese, and I wasn't looking at the screen. Yeah. So what I ended up doing was changing over to the English dub of it. And when I changed to the English dub, everything changed. Because 1, I could understand it. 2, I didn't realize it before, but the Japanese voice acting, a lot of the female characters, the vocal quality were way too similar, so I could not differentiate between different characters. And that was driving me wild. So as soon as we went to the English, every voice actor was much more distinct. And it blew my mind how much that changed my ability to consume the show, which I would have never done in the first place if I hadn't been challenged. So, like, there's the thing, is like all the characters are like animals, but they also have this human form. And it also takes place within this realm where everybody, where humans exist as well. And so you have beastmen and humans humans hate the beastmen. There's a lot of humans that hate beastmen. So they eventually just create this city called Anima City. And the main character's first goal, once you see her, is to reach Anima City. And it's very interesting how you have this setup a lot where you have this paradise that a person is trying to strive and reach, and a lot of times that's the main goal of that character is to reach that city. This kind of turns that idea on its head, because the first thing that happens in the show pretty much is she reaches the city. It's like this place, this utopia, she reaches it, and if this place was really a utopia, you wouldn't have much of a show now, would you? So she reaches this place, and clearly things aren't as awesome there as you might have expected. And so you have this great little setup, and I ended up really enjoying the show.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too.
It's I was not expecting to enjoy it, and a lot of it has to do you have a good story, but on top of that, what made me even like it even more is the main character.
Yeah, she's very likable.
She is one of the sweetest characters there. But what's great about it is so often when you have the sweet character, they're also this almost stupid, always naive type of character. No, she isn't stupid or naive. She's actually very sharp and very intelligent with what she's going. So, of course, some of the bad stuff that happens to her is because she's ignorant of what the world is like around her because she's new to it. She's a fish out of water. She doesn't know exactly what's going on, so some of the bad stuff doesn't have to do with her being stupid. It's a refreshing thing to have somebody that is not only sweet and nice and kind, but also smart and sharp
and
being able to do things.
So I actually can appreciate that, but I'm really surprised you like the show. And while Paul's opinion leaves me dubious, Jeremy has good taste.
We are friends, right? All the people here, we all like each other.
We're just. She teases, right? Yeah.
Jeremy and I's taste.
I like your taste, Paul. I like your taste.
They tend to run a little more similar than you and I's. And also, Paul, you just continually insist upon torturing me. So it hasn't really helped your status in my mind. But yeah. I want to go on record for saying, like, I'm having a realization as you guys are talking about specifically, I'm going to say Netflix shows lately. No offense, Netflix. I'm really hoping you give us Hannibal season 4. However, like lately, my problem has been with Netflix is that the original series that I see coming out don't look interesting. They don't make me want to watch them. The trailers really don't make me want to watch a lot of them. The descriptions are not catching. Like, they're not, when you see that description summary, it's not like, oh, I really want to watch this show.
Right.
Like, I can't tell you how many Netflix series, like, I've scrolled past 2 million times, and it takes somebody being like, oh, no, you need to watch it. And then you get a couple episodes in, and you're like, oh, well, this is really good. Why didn't they advertise it to me as though it was really good?
Right.
And I'm finding that being a failing on, like, the part of the, I do not want you to preview the whole thing so that I don't know, that I know everything about the series. But, like, is anybody else finding that they're not really catchy right now? Like,
oh yeah. Oh, Netflix has gotten a reputation, and that filters into my mind as soon as I turn Netflix on. Because first off, the thing I hate about Netflix is as soon as I turn it on, there's a preview of something that's just playing, and now it says, and it's generating for something I hate.
I don't want to watch that.
Like, I don't want to watch a Jim Jeffries comedy special. Go away. You know, I don't want to watch a reality TV series about a guy shopping, which is actually a real show on there. I guess. But that's the thing. Netflix has gotten this reputation for just being a repository of hot garbage, so that when something genuinely great is on there, everybody's like, whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel
about it. They don't give a chance.
And they're not, okay. Can we have this conversation for a second? Because I'm actually really surprised this is a good show. Like, supposedly.
I was too. I was blown away.
Supposedly.
I'm surprised.
And I feel like every time I see a good Netflix series now, they used to be like, oh, a Netflix series, like, I bet this is good. Now it's like, I'm shocked. And
House of Cards is way in the past.
Yeah. So now, like, not only that, but like, we have the problem of the hot trailer at your face, and their like top pick of the day, the one that like you open on, is not very well tailored to the person watching. I got like some reality show about people falling in love. Like,
oh no. Yes, I know the one you're talking about. That's.
I don't care. I like really only watched Tiger King because we were in the middle of a pandemic, Netflix. And like, other than that, I wouldn't have cared. And that was on my banner for like weeks. And like, they're not good at tailoring it.
No, I had a theory for a long time that at some point there would be an album that would go platinum or a movie that would make $1 billion because everybody collectively went, yeah, okay. And I think that's Tiger King.
Fine.
That's Tiger King. Everybody, the country just went.
Timing. The perfect timing. Fine. Why not? I'm at home.
Why not that? Just that. Well, like
it was
country collectively decided.
It was why not, and it was very memeable.
Yeah, that's true.
Those two with those powers combined, it didn't get captured.
But my point here is that there's that problem. B, like, the categories used to be interestingly named. I remember those days. They used to be great.
And accurate, too.
Like,
No, I'm like,
or Nicolas Cage as a mental breakdown.
now it's just like goofball comedies, Silence of the Lambs. I'm like, I think you're broken.
That's exactly my point. It's like they're not very well picked.
Yeah.
Like, I saw feel-good films the other day, and like, look, I was in a cheesy mood. The world is dark right now, in my opinion. And I was like, let's just see what's here. And it's like a couple like really, really cruddy kids movies. And like some films that I'm like, how is that a feel-good film? And the Lorax. And like, why wasn't The Artist in that category? I would call that a feel-good film.
Yeah,
it's definitely a feel-good movie.
Why wasn't that in that category?
There's an interesting thing, like, just to tie this back to B&A. It's like, B&A has this weird juxtaposition where it is a feel-good show while at the same time being very dark.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you have the main character who is this force of positivity throughout all this thing. It's like I'm about halfway through, so it's like the episode I ended on was she became a baseball player. She like,
yes,
when she was a human, she was like loved playing basketball. It's like, well, we don't have this, but we have this over here, and they bring her to this baseball game, and it's like the interesting thing about this baseball league is the Beastmen, they really want to win. So it's like, you'll hit the ball, they're running the first place, all of a sudden the flamingo beast person throws these knives and kills the person running over the first place. It's like, what the heck is going on?
People die in baseball but
it's like,
city, yeah.
It was brought in this like a humorous way, so you're laughing at it. So that's not fully the dark part. So you had this like cheerful underdog story of her joining this baseball team, and they're a terrible team. They're bears, so it fits the idea of the bad news bears. So you have that little synergy going along, and all the bears are just adorable, and like you want to root for them. Like, it's all these ugly characters that are killing each other. It's like, no, we can't kill each other. This is baseball. This isn't about murdering people. It's about playing baseball. And underneath it, you learn like the coach of the Bears team is all wrapped up in the mob, and essentially been sabotaging the teams to ensure that they lose, to keep this gambling racket going. And that story, like him getting threatening, like, hey, if they win again, you're going to die, essentially. So him getting involved with the mob was this just dark, seedy, underground part of this feel-good baseball story that you had. And not to mention, like, they throw you in the second story where, I mean, the second episode gets even darker.
Well, hold on. Are you going away from the baseball thing real quick? Because there's a really good point about the whole, like the tone of the whole series in this baseball arc, where in the team you have like this little cute bear who keeps trying like different schemes for making money in the slum that he lives. At one point he gets caught by like the creditors, and he's being carried away, like, well, this is what happens when you get addicted to shopping. He's like being carried away to a funeral pyre. But then you'll have, like, they show the past of the coach of the game, of the coach of the team. And like, he's a beastman, but he got to play baseball in human leagues. Like, he was like a Jackie Robinson kind of character, and they show him getting drinks thrown on him, the team not, taking him seriously and calling him names and saying like, well, you're a beastman, you need to pee outside. And they show him like drinking alone in his apartment, like thinking back to these things, and then brutally murdering like people on his team, like after he got fed up at one point. So like, it's super dark. It's like the juxtaposition of super dark and then good, well-written, lighthearted humor.
And that can go so badly. Like, I'm actually a little...
But it doesn't. They do it. They make it work in the show.
I really think...
I'm so confused. I need a break. Like...
The crux of it lands on the execution of the main character. If she wasn't as likable and you wanted to root for her as much as she is, the whole series would fall apart. I feel.
Right. And a little background on her that we haven't mentioned at this point. She is a human who, for some reason, has turned into a beastman, and she's trying to figure out why. Why has this happened to her? At this point, her best friend, who had disappeared, who had also was a human and started turning into a beastman, has just reappeared in the show at this point.
Oh no, she hasn't reappeared yet. That's the next episode after the.
Oh, you haven't gotten to that. If you haven't gotten to that quite yet.
No, I haven't.
So anyway, you were saying about the second episode. I didn't, but I want to make sure.
I'm thoroughly shocked because this looked like the dumbest anime ever when I saw the preview.
I thought it was just going to be like a cute talking animal thing.
Which you like that kind of crap. Like,
yeah. Well, I like, I mean, ever since I was a kid, but I always liked it when it was also more serious, like Usagi Yojimbo, or the Robin Hood that was done by, with animals in Disney.
Yeah, I love
the best Disney
Robin
movie.
Hood.
That's the best Disney movie. So I like it when it's taken more seriously. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a kind of a fun, dumb thing, but this I wasn't sure where it was going to land, and I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I was immediately hooked.
Worse than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I first saw it. I was like, "There's no
But it's a whole allegory for race relations, but actually, I think does as good or a better job of it than Zootopia, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Because it explores the darker parts.
I didn't feel like Zootopia was that good. Oh my god, I would say it was like not that good.
What the hell did you just say?
Oh, I love Zootopia. No,
actually, you're allowed to not like whatever you don't want. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm kind of along the same lines as what you're saying. Like, I just didn't feel like it ever really went deep enough, and it didn't take enough things into account.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is like, because Zootopia is trying to be a one-to-one parallel, and it doesn't quite work. But with BNA, it's not really trying to be a one-to-one parallel, but somehow it works better than Zootopia. Because they're acknowledging the weird intricacies of what would be happening if this were real.
Right.
Yeah, if Beastmen were real, then this is also an area where the movie Bright with Will Smith just falls apart. It tries to be an allegory for race, but the fact of the matter is, the reason why they hate the orcs in the movie Bright is because they tried to take over the world.
Yeah.
They use dark magic to try to take over the entire world. It's that's why people hate them.
Right.
When it comes to race, it's because they were born that way. And it's you can't help being born a certain way. So that's why it's
that's why I could never get into Bright. I heard about it and I was just
I got 10 minutes in and noped right out of
there. The music was wonderful.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was a bad movie, and it was Zootopia, since it takes that one-to-one route, it loses some of the nuance of what race relations is as compared to it, because the non-meat eaters, for herbivores, have a reason to be scared of carnivores. There's a reason for it. It's a legitimate reason.
Right. The tiger is genuinely giant and scary and has sharp teeth and claws.
And will eat you.
This isn't people where it's just we're the same essentially. This is in Zootopia is no, that's a camel and that's a lion. That's a problem.
Yeah, it misses that nuance, which BNA does not ignore that.
No.
There is a strong distinction to show that, this is not a one-to-one thing we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Then it also takes into the fact that, just because they're being persecuted doesn't mean they don't have their own problems as well.
Right.
So
it's not like
this
side
corruption.
wholly good, this side wholly bad, kind of thing, which I think permeates this kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of good nuance with it. There's certain flaws. There's this. I'm not sure if he's going to turn into a romance.
Oh no, I hope not. Actually,
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I don't think it should be. Like, I really like his character, but he is totally OP.
Yes,
He is way overpowered.
The other main character is a guy who turns into a wolf. Now, you find out why he's overpowered a little bit past where you're watching right now.
I have a feeling, because there's like a whole religious cult following of him, and it's quite interesting the way his character works. I also really love the voice actor that they gave him, because
he's so good.
His character model makes it look like he had that typical anime protagonist voice, but no, he has this very deep, very gruff type voice, and it works so well.
It's like if you've ever played the game Full Throttle, like Roy Conrad's excellent, understated, gravelly, just not acting tough, but is tough. Like you doesn't have to push it over the top just to be the most threatening presence in the room. And whoever they got for him, this guy, no, that's fine.
We need to have it.
In the closet.
Yeah, the only time he gets emotional is when he's like somebody is like betraying the Beastmen, and he's like, you don't even deserve my claws. All you get is my fist, and that's like the only time. Yeah.
There are some good pummelings in this series, by the way. Some very satisfying pummelings.
On a side note, we do need to one night go off on a tangent about voice acting, because
we do.
Paul and I have talked about a couple of those.
Yes.
But a great topic on that regard is like people who are professional voice actors as compared to hiring famous actors to play.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
No.
That will be a whole episode. We'll talk about Sinbad of the Seven Seas with Brad Pitt voicing Sinbad. The worst voice acting job I have ever heard. But BNA.
You know what the exception is? Christian Bale.
Oh, no, he's fantastic because he disappears into the role. Yeah. He's Howl in Hell's Moving Castle, which I didn't know.
He may be a better voice actor than he is an actor. I'm not sure.
He was so good in that.
Oh my God, he was so good in Hell's Moving Castle.
One of the things I love about BNA, and what Jeremy kind of hinted at, is that I don't like typical anime voice acting, especially I think the quintessential example of this is Ace, the attorney, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney series. Dear Lord, because it's the over the top, energy high in the register, especially the female voices in anime tend to be the very high, very squeaky voice.
Yes, God, that drives me insane.
And then the guys all talk like this. No, nobody freaking talks like that. But in BNA, the acting is much more natural. I feel like it's good, natural voice acting, like Western style voice acting. I don't know if that's just a result of the fact that Netflix is kind of in charge of everything, and it's very it starts Western, like there's that collaboration between the two, but it feels much more. Now, I will say, there is a character, and you may not have gotten to this yet. There's a character that plays an albatross who sounds just like Squilliam Fancy Pants or Fancyson from SpongeBob SquarePants. He literally sounds like this. And all I could think whenever
I just met the albatross in the previous episode.
Every time he talks, all I can think of is, I heard you have a 5-star restaurant, Squidward. And like they really need to get somebody else. But the thing is,
he was nice and goofy,
the thing about it is, that actually works because he turns out to be a very threatening character. So that voice kind of threw you off at first, and you thought he's going to be very goofy, but it turns out no, he's actually kind of terrifying. So
I haven't seen that yet.
He turns out to be a terrorist. So
I'm so confused about this show. I don't know what to think.
Yes.
I don't know if I should watch it. I don't know what to think.
You should watch it. You should give it a try at least.
Yeah.
Make sure to turn on the English, because it starts out in the Japanese, and like I said, like a lot of the vocal qualities, like you do get a lot more of the standard voices in the Japanese voices.
Yeah.
Like all the female characters are those high pitched voices.
I watch an English dub because I'm standing
it's worth it.
loading the dishwasher.
They did
Yeah, it's
such a good job with the English
Yeah,
dub in this.
whoever played the main character, I'm pretty sure I've heard her before,
Mhm.
but she does such a fantastic job
And a note on that,
convincing me.
this is what I love about, like, it's a strong female character that's not given into the stupid strong female character conventions that you see in a lot of movies, where it's like, you know, she was taught by her uncle and 3 brothers to like cars, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Can she just like what she likes and we just go from there? She's a strong, likable character who defends people and doesn't, and isn't like some like super hard ass, like, you know, the one Marine in Aliens who was like, or I guess Hicks, whatever it was, in Aliens, where she's like basically just like they wrote the role for a dude and then just said like, this woman will do playing the role. Like, that's not how it is in BNA. I think what I like about it is every character is a character. They're a person. And that's what you need in a story that's about race relations, says the white middle-aged guy on the internet. But the thing is that I see so many, as a person who's, I guess, maybe the target audience for a lot of these kinds of things, the kind of demographic that needs to be reached with a lot of these race relation stories, is I feel it's very much side versus side. And what really gets me and convinces me about things in anything is person to person. And this show is very much person to person. You know, this character is this person. They're unique individuals and written to be people. And it's not this obvious, everything's simple and black and white and just this very clumsy, like Bright, where everything's this clumsy.
I'm still gonna go and say then they really need to work on their advertising.
Oh, they do.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
I did.
Based on what I've seen, would not watch.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I don't blame
you. I was the same way.
Do not blame
you. Like, I'm not. I typically avoid things with anthropomorphic animals, but
I typically avoid anything that Netflix tries to put in my face. Like, if they keep recommending it, I'll actually avoid it on purpose. It's like Paul. Like,
I become the contrarian again. Like, you really think this is good, Netflix? Well, I disagree.
I disagree on principle.
On principle, I won't watch you.
I don't jump on Netflix enough to really know what they're trying to force down my throat. But like, I let one of my friends. He has a little account on there as well, and he started changing my little profile picture, and I didn't say anything because I didn't get on there enough to realize that he was changing it.
So as a quick aside, like, my family used to have the most perfect Netflix icons for all of us.
I remember this. Yes.
Everybody who knows me has commented, they're like, wow, that is insane. Like, and then they all started changing theirs, and I'm the only one who's left mine the same, and I'm very sad.
Oh.
Mine's like the default sideways smiley.
Like, at one point, like, my mom was a smiley face, I was the panda with the mask, my dad was the rooster, and my brother was the mustache guy.
That's perfect. I remember like not seeing the names, but guessing accurately who was who. And when I saw the scowling rooster, I was like, "That's your dad.
That's your dad." Like,
the happy panda. That's your mom. That's your mom.
People who've never met my family have been like, "Oh, I know exactly who all of these are."
It's so strange.
And then they ruined it. I'm like, I'm so sad.
No.
Anyway. That's interesting.
So
anyway,
there is
BNA.
That's BNA. So there is our episode. We talked about 3 very disparate things. We usually kind of have a theme. Like, one time we did all games, but this week it was like video game, silent movie, anime. Like, all right, just the most disparate things we could think of. The 3 most disparate things I knew of before this that existed in one place was a real product I saw, which was Angry Birds Star Wars Jenga. That was one thing sitting on a store shelf I saw. I thought you'd be more shocked at that. Anyway, that was our episode for this week.
I've seen that.
Okay, yeah, you're not shocked because you're just like, you're a cynical capitalist, you know, existing like, yeah, of course I made that.
No, I'm the cynical capitalist. Like, of course, I don't go.
I buy an inflatable grill.
Making
What do you don't
things.
know? So, all right. So there's our discomfort zone for this week.
Yeah.
We were all uncomfortable, I guess, and then we became comfortable again, or something. That's how this works. I don't know. Anyway, we're the Casual Fanatics. I'm Paul Sadden. That's Sydnee Johnson. That's Jeremy Brazell, and we're gonna go do other things now. Bye.
Toodaloo.
Whatever.